Here are some answers to ArrayList worksheet questions in which we're mostly using linear sequential searches to find a key value, a key inside of an array list. In number 1 here, the function must return an int. So you could just come down here and type return question mark to prepare for that task. And don't forget your closing curly brace. And what do we have to do now? We need the parameter list, which is an array list of integers, and we need to search through it. So I guess I need a loop. Should I use a for loop or a while loop? Both can be used, but I prefer for loops myself. And I typically use the variable I, and you have to declare your variable I. And you always start at 0 because the first position of an array list is position 0. Semicolons, of course. And how far do we have to travel through the array list? Well, we need to go up to its length. Whoops, I forgot. Array lists have size methods, not length properties like arrays do. So we have to go to list.size, empty parentheses because size is a method. And then, of course, we need to go one by one because we don't want to miss any. So we type I++ here as our incrementing expression. So that's our loop. And I need a body for that loop. So I should use curly braces for good style if I have room here. There's the body of the loop. And each time I go through the loop with one loop iteration, I need to inspect each new element of list. So if list square brackets I double equals that which I'm looking for, key value, if it's true, whoops, I just used the notation for an array. Please don't do this in a problem where you're given an array list to search through. So instead of square brackets I, you need to use the get method from the ArrayList class. And the get method takes a parameter of what position you're looking for. So if the value 3 is found in position 0, then this if statement is true. Oh, but then each time around the for loop, that would only check position 0 over and over again. And if I'm looking for the number 3, as you see in example 1, I would never find this 3, or this 3 for that matter, because I'm stuck at index position 0. So I need to use the variable I there instead of hardwiring it to 0. Of course, you have to remember to use a double equals in an if statement and not a single equals. That just won't work in Java. Okay, so what are we doing inside the if statement? I'm not going to use curly braces because I don't have room for curly braces on this worksheet question. So if I find what I'm looking for, I'm going to immediately return the position, not key value, but rather the position of where I found key value. As soon as the computer iterates this for loop 2 or 3 or 4 times, as soon as it finds what it's looking for and hits this return, it's out of there. The method ends. It never I++s and searches out the rest of this array list. This 2 will never be inspected, neither will this second occurrence of the 3. Because we found the first 3 in position I equals 2, because remember that 4 is in position 0, the 8's in position 1, and the 3 is in position 2, the value 2 will be returned. So do I need this return statement that I previously put down here? Yes, I do. I need to return a -1 if somehow I manage to go fully traverse this array list, and if I get to the end of it, down to where size is, and if I still haven't found what I'm looking for, after I drop out of this for loop, I need to return -1 according to the problem assigned to me. Hey, don't forget, you need a strictly less than symbol here. Never put an equal symbol if you're starting at position 0, because this will give you an out of bounds exception error. It'll crash because it'll look for another element in the list that doesn't exist in position 5. In this case, the size is 5, but this last 3 is in position 4. Okay, so let's clean this code up. You know what? I don't even need these curly braces here because the rule says that if a for loop only has one statement in its body, and this whole if is considered one statement, by the way, the curly braces are optional. Don't do this on a programming assignment that you hand in for a grade, but when on the AP exam or on a worksheet where you don't have much space, you could shrink your code, condense your code to something like this. Okay, question 2. We need to count the number of strings that are MALE. We need another for loop. And we need to start I at 0, of course. We need to take I less than list.size. Make sure it's not less than or equal to. And we need to I++. Standard for loop for working with arrays or array lists. I probably don't need curly braces. So what is it that I'm supposed to do, or what am I looking for? If list.get I, do not type list parentheses I. Array lists don't work with the parentheses in that way. You need to type .get, the get method from the ArrayList class. And do not use a double equals here. That should look strange to you. Anytime you're using double equals with a string, it should just look strange because it's an error. With strings, because they're objects, you need to use the dot equals method. And don't forget your double quotes around the word male, because that's a string value. And don't forget this extra parenthesis either. Okay, so what is it that we're supposed to do if we find a string that's MALE? We're supposed to count plus plus. Wait, what's count? You can't do this kind of stuff. You can't just surprise Java with a variable that it had no previous knowledge of. You have to declare local variables. In the method that you're currently in, you have to declare it up above the for loop, of course, and set it equal to 0. Local variables do not automatically get initialized to 0. Private properties in classes do, but local variables do not initialize to 0 automatically. And you have to tell the computer what data type it is. You can't just say count equals 0 and assume that it knows it's an int. It could be a double. It could be other data types that we never studied in Java. So you got to say it's an int. Okay, so I think that's it. That's the dirty work. No curly braces here. I don't have room for curly braces. Now, what is it that you're supposed to do in the end? You're supposed to return the number of times that you found the MALE. It says here that you're supposed to return an int. See that int? So don't just end with that answer there. You lose the point on the AP exam if you don't actually return what you worked hard to find. So return, wrong font.
Semicolon.
Oh, thank you, Alan Liu, to my rescue. Alan Liu lives at 123 Reading Boulevard. Stalk him if you would like. 1, 2, 3. Okay, return count. Semicolon, curly brace, and I'm done. Thank you. Have a good day. Here's an alternate answer if you prefer an enhanced for loop instead of a for each loop. Here's an alternate answer. You would still have int count equals 0, but the for loop part of it would look something like this. For string, I'll just say x, and the string is coming out of the ArrayList list. We still don't need curly braces because now we simply have the if statement if x dot equals quote male count plus plus. That's it, folks. You would still return count outside of the for loop, but that's just a way to avoid using the loop variable I and to avoid having to know that the size method even exists. This just naturally works. Java guarantees you that it will fully traverse the list one by one, and each element will temporarily be stored in the variable that you made up there, named x or whatever, and you still have to use dot equals. Remember, don't use a double equal symbol. Okay, folks, this question number 3. Question number 3 is quite tricky, and it's not similar to the other questions on this worksheet entirely, so pay attention to this video. Here goes. We have a situation on our hand where we have a string being passed as a parameter, and we need to break it up into an array list. So it turns out you need to know that you need to declare and instantiate an array list as the very first thing you do in this answer. So here's how you declare and instantiate an array list of strings. You need to know how to write that line of code. You can name it anything you want. I named it temp, obviously. And now we proceed forward with our loop. So we want to break up the individual letters and store them into the array list of strings. Well, we need to use a for loop. For int I equals 0. Tricky part coming. I less than input dot length. Input is the string that we're breaking up. We'll pretend it's the word Y missing. And we need to break it up, but we need to break it up into its letters. And we need to know how many letters there are. Well, in the string class, there is a length method. Not a string property like there is in the array class. It's a method, so you need empty parentheses there. I++, of course, like we always do with these traditional for loops. And now what is it that we're supposed to do each time we go from letter to letter? W, Y, O, M. We're supposed to break it up. Well, let's use our substring method. We need to break it up into letters. So we'll need like input.substring. And to get one letter at a time, you need the notation I, I plus 1. This is a standard algorithm that gets used all over the AP exam. To take one letter out of a string, it's always like some position, comma, and then that position plus 1. And what are we supposed to do with this letter? We're supposed to add it into that new array list. Using the ArrayList add method would be the way to do this. And that's it, folks. By putting my parentheses in nicely, I've done a lot in that one line of code. Be careful to work inside the parentheses out. Inside the parentheses there, we pull out one letter, the W, let's say, and then we add the W into our new temporary array list. Yes, you could have broken this down into 2 or 3 lines of code with extra local variables, but I can do that kind of thing in one line of code. I don't even need curly braces in my for loop. I'm done. Oh, but don't end there. You must return that which you were hired to return. This question is telling you to return an array list of strings, something that looks like this up here in this example. Well, trust me, that's been done by the for loop, but we must follow through and return it. So what is it that we are returning? We're returning that array list that we declared and instantiated and have now successfully added stuff into it. There's your nice, clean, relatively short answer. While this answer is preferred, because on the AP exam they expect that you know how to use the substring method from the string class, it's not AP exam testable, but you're allowed to use it. There's this char at method in the string class that could have been used also. So we could have done this. Temp.add input.char at parentheses I. Okay, unprecedented. Mr. Minnick was wrong about something. This is not a viable answer. I went and I looked it up in the API for Java. I looked up the string class, and I scrolled down to find the char at method, and I realized that the char at method returns a char and not a string. Even though it's one letter at a time, I still need to return an array list of strings, not an array list of char chars, which we don't really study in this course because it's not on the AP exam. So sorry to the student whose initials are JB that incorrectly wrote that and lulled me into a false sense of rightness. We are both wrong. I apologize to him and anybody who watched that last 3 minutes of unnecessarily long video. Thank you and have a great weekend or day.